Habits 365 Conscious Minds podcast.
What's up, guys, and welcome back to the Conscious Minds podcast. I'm your host, Chris Holbert, and we are joined here with my co-host, founder, and CEO of Habits 365, Eli Zaid. How you doing?
Hello, guys. Good to see you all again. My name is Eli Zaid, for those who don't know me, and today we're joined by an extremely special guest. He is an American actor who has had various roles in TV shows such as All American, Grey's Anatomy, Teen Wolf, and is the star in a new film, Notorious Nick, and that is Cody Christian. Cody, it's awesome to have you here. If you just want to introduce yourself for the people at home that may not know you.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, quite an introduction. Thank you, first and foremost. And I think you did my job. I mean, hi, what's up? I'm Cody. I'm an actor. But not Eli, I think you summed it up, man. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Yeah, no, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Cody, so basically the premise of this podcast, overarching theme is like, how have you kind of created like habits for yourself that kind of propelled your career to reach certain limits? You have all these things you had to do beforehand to get to the place you are today.
Mhm.
So what have you kind of developed in terms of habits that have gotten you to the place where you are today?
I mean, I think you just brought up an excellent point, from where I started to where I am now. And from my perspective, I still feel like I'm in the very beginning of things. Versatility is a huge one, man, because these habits change over time, right? It's the adaptability aspect to be able to go, okay, this was working for me at this point in my life. Things are different. I'm different. My habits are different. What do I have to do? What do I have to readjust? So I feel like it's constantly evolving.
Yeah, you always got to adapt.
Yeah, and it's weird. I'm in a very interesting turn in my life. I just turned 26, and I think I'm at this point of kind of resetting and recalibrating, reevaluating what are the habits that I'm like currently doing. What are the things that I want to touch back on? What are new things that I want to implement? So it's been a lot of constant change, and I imagine that's how it's continuing to be. But it's cool. It's a cool like place to be in right now. But yeah, I think that's the number one thing, right? Is obviously some good habits are better than none, but I think they constantly change. So kind of being objectively aware of that.
Consistency also is a huge factor.
Yeah,
Just
absolutely.
in building better habits, like that's the biggest thing, I think.
And I think one thing I actually, because
You always got to keep yourself in check too.
of course, right? Like what I was thinking about, on my way over here to do this was, behind habits, what it really implements for you is discipline. And I feel like most of the time we don't get the opportunity to practice being disciplined. The implementation of good habits and the consistency aspect of constantly reinforcing them and committing to them, showing up when you don't want to do the certain things that you've, decided to do for yourself. It's all a factor, man. It's all a part of the equation.
Yeah, it's really just the game. You just have to figure it out and do your best job to ultimately reach this peak of being. Not a peak, because nobody really. It's hard to determine someone's peak, but to become the best version of yourself, at least.
I heard I had a conversation years ago, man, and it was so random. It was at a party, speaking to an older gentleman. I want to say he was like in his 70s, right? And we were talking about just life in general, maybe a similar conversation to what we're having now. And he told me the most important thing is to always prioritize growth, in the sense of like every day is a new day, every moment is a new moment. The saying, you can't step in the same river twice, right? It's constantly moving, life is constantly changing, evolving, decaying, all that kind of stuff. So he pretty much told me like, your opportunity to stop growing is when you die, is when you leave. So up until that moment, you know what I mean? You, as a human being with a conscious mind, are capable of learning, changing, growing. It's a never-ending act. And I think that's like, a spark of humanity that makes us who and what we are, which is super dope.
Yep.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, too, we're always playing a part. Like, this is our character. This is our, like, avatar that we're constantly trying to evolve and grow and level up almost.
Yeah, like, and it's making your life a movie, right? Like, you're writing the circumstances as it's happening, right? There's no sort of like limitations. There's no sort of like, all right, this is the path that has been chosen for me. I've seen people make changes in their life on a drop of a dime by making a decision and standing behind that decision with everything that they are. And not accepting what it is that life is giving them, or the circumstances that they'd be given. And that's, what Notorious
You
Nick.
pave your own way.
Yeah,
Pave
well,
your
that
own
was
path.
Notorious Nick. The root of it is like this guy who was given these ridiculous circumstances that he had to overcome, but he
You
did
had to
just
figure
that.
it out. Yep.
Yeah, he figured it out. You know what I mean? He adapted it. He did what he had to do because he had a goal and a dream to pursue. And he was saying, hey, I'm not going to stop. I'm not going to let anything stop me. If I can't do it this way, I'll just do it differently. And that was super cool about that film. Kind of ties in with a lot
Yo,
of what we're talking about.
how has playing that part kind of like helped you develop? Because like you had to go into that character
Mhm.
and become Notorious Nick.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have to literally embody that character and emotionally embrace it. How has that kind of helped you in your individual sense as a person, like even grow?
I think
That's a great question.
it took a lot of hard work and commitment, right? A lot of dedicated focus, mentally, emotionally, physically. Like my body was, beat to shit in like the first 2.5 weeks of filming.
Yeah.
Like
Oh yeah.
I was in there. I was getting tossed around, and I'm not a professional fighter, so all the
Mhm.
training leading up to that was taxing. And then,
You had to adapt to it, just
yeah,
like
and then
life.
the first 2 weeks of filming, I'm getting tossed around, so my whole body is, dude. I remember like I'd have mat burn everywhere. When you're like on a canvas mat, like an
Oh,
octagon mat.
Oh,
So like my
Jesus.
knees, my
Yeah.
legs, all of my feet, all my toes, they were all like split open essentially. And
Yeah.
then throughout the day, my stunt double and our stunt coordinator, after every take, would have to run in and use like liquid bandage to
Yeah,
like
you gotta
seal them
wipe
up.
it off. You gotta like respawn pretty much.
But I don't know if you ever used liquid bandage on like open skin, but it's like it's
I have it.
painful. It's excruciating. It's like dumping
yeah.
alcohol
It
into
sounds
the wound.
painful.
So like
Yeah.
that in combination with like the sweat and then the application of it, then do a take and it would split back open. Like I remember being on location at the end of a work day, the first like 2.5 weeks, and my whole body was, in so much pain. And I tried to take like an Epsom salt bath and I couldn't even sit
Yeah.
in the tub because I had so many like open wounds everywhere.
Right.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
But like it
Yeah.
what it did is it showed me and reinforced to me like my own ability to kind of lock in, commit a new level of refined focus, um, a sense of like what are you willing to, I guess, put up or sacrifice for
Yeah,
this level of
it's all about
performance.
sacrifice. Yeah.
Yeah, in a way,
For
it
the
was a
greater
very
good at the end of the day. I'm assuming you're very proud of the work you've done
yeah,
because
and
of the
that's
sacrifice.
the film took a while to come out, so that's work that I did 4 years ago. You know what I mean? So at that moment, it was a very, I think, maturing thing, artistically, personally. It just kind of showed me like, all right, like I can do this. So if I can do this, like,
Mhm.
what's next? What can I do? On top of this, what's the next project? What am I more capable of doing? And just
Right.
outside of like the filming, right? It's just applying
Yeah.
the same principle to life. Like, okay, cool. Like I did this.
Yeah.
I know I'm capable of executing here. Like, what else do I want to put my time and attention into? Because that's life, right? Like you can achieve anything that you want. It's what you decide to allocate the most precious commodity to, which is like time,
Yeah.
right? You can
No,
be
it's
anything and
for sure.
everything with just an investment of time.
Yeah, it's time and strategy
That's
also.
facts.
Yeah, I mean that's the root of it, and it's just
Yeah.
it's up to you how you want to spend your time every day. What do you want to
Yeah.
do? If you want to do 10 things, like it's doable, but you're gonna really have to like
It's
you want to be a
sacrifice.
better singer? Cool. Are you taking vocal lessons? Are you practicing? You can't just say you want to be a better singer.
No.
Are you spending 5 hours a week minimum doing it?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You want to run a business, like you
Yeah.
want to be a
Yeah.
CEO of a business. Like, okay, cool. I'm
Yeah.
sure you could speak about that plenty. Like,
Uh-huh.
there's many roles and hats that you have to wear and what you had to do in order to like.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure like all the time that you've put in so far, and that's
Mhm.
just getting started.
And we're just getting started.
Yeah.
Yep. Which is crazy to think because
Mhm.
there's been so much sacrifice that like I've personally had to make, that people on my team have had to make,
Yeah.
had to make. Like
Question. Wait,
it's crazy.
I got a question for you. When did you
Yeah.
start? Like, how old are you right now?
So I'm 19 now. I started when I just turned 15.
Okay, so what's crazy too,
So,
and you could speak on this, right? Is you've been in this different mindset for years. So in a
yeah,
way, there's parts of your childhood I feel like that you've probably missed out on because you've
yes,
decided, okay, rather than put my time here, I want to focus on this thing. And
that's
not a
very
lot of
true.
15, 16-year-old kids are doing that.
No, no, and there's very few, and that's why I feel like. However, with the time that I've spent, I feel like part of the reason I wanted to start really young, just so I can basically fuck up and make mistakes
Yeah.
at a young age rather than if I'm a 35-year-old and I have this business and I'm making mistakes, it's like, oh no, no, no.
I feel
I
that.
want to learn everything now.
Yeah.
So then right out of college, I'm running the show. Like I want to be really on. I'm super anal when it comes to just organization and kind of running my company the right way and the
Mhm.
way that I want it to be ran in a proper, organized way, if that makes sense. But I'd say I've become more locked in each year, which is a little weird to think about because you'd think that I'm in the same in the same mentality always, but no, I'm really not because it's hard.
Yeah.
And each year has become harder. And I've put more time in each year, obviously, as you would probably expect. Because
Mhm.
as it slowly grows, I have to spend more time. I have to allocate more tasks. So if that kind of makes sense.
No, for sure, man. I think one of
Yeah.
one of the things I'm most grateful for in my life is that
Mhm.
at a very young age, I knew what I wanted to do, right? Like I was
Yeah.
exposed to this acting thing.
That's
Mhm.
dope.
Yeah, I had been like taking classes. I had worked, a handful of times on smaller projects. So I had had that experience. But when I was like 12 years old, I knew I was like,
You
I want
knew
to do
you
this.
knew you wanted, yeah.
I want to do this thing. I want to do this thing for the rest of my life. And I'm
Yeah,
grateful for that for the reason you just said, right? Because it gave
exactly.
me like these 10 years of like a
It
buffer
gave you
zone
time, and you're
of like,
26, and you've been in like
yeah. And it's like
yeah,
26, I'm still at the
You
very
knew the avenue
beginning.
constant
you went
growth, right?
I'm still at the very beginning of things. And it's like, I can also still on a stretch play like 17, 18. Like I
Yeah,
had to learn that,
yeah,
right? In my line of work,
it's crazy.
that
Yeah,
the best roles for me are coming up. They're ahead of me, right? So it's like
exactly.
my perception of time and where I'm at in my life and my career had to shift and change as it has multiple times, from when I started till now.
Right. Yeah. No, yeah, no, yeah, that's definitely all very true. So switching topics just a little bit. So obviously All American season 3 out on Netflix,
Yeah.
available to the public. Obviously
You
great
watched.
season. I'm
You
not going to
watched it?
give, well, of course I watched it. Come
Nice.
on.
Nice.
So what has been like a highlight that you'd like to like talk about just with this season in particular? Like, I know obviously COVID's still a thing.
Hmm.
I know it's probably harder to film. It's probably more annoying to film also.
Yeah.
I don't know like about the masks and the restrictions, but like how was overall your experience with this season and just filming in
I
general?
mean, I think this season was more special than the others
Mhm.
because of the circumstances, right? This world pandemic that's happening,
Mhm.
so many people out of work,
Yeah.
really like dire times. Like a lot of people went through hell and back and are still, recovering. So the fact that we were able to come together as a production, I mean, everyone involved, studio, network, our writers, staff, our producers, like everyone, cast, crew, the fact that we were able to come together and, you know, overcome the resistance, so to speak, adhere to the protocols, keep everyone safe and comfortable, and still be able to bang out a 19 episode season that was
Yeah.
received pretty well.
It's phenomenal. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that sense of accomplishment is one thing, but also just banding together in a time where we were very lucky and fortunate just to be working. Like a lot of people
Yeah.
didn't have the same
You
fortune
have
that
to be
we did.
grateful.
Yeah, so it was a very special season in the sense of like it shouldn't have worked out the way it did, but somehow, some way,
No. Yeah.
everything lined up.
Seriously. Yeah.
Yeah. So
It wasn't expected, like because the circumstances are so like they're just not, it's just not normal at all.
Yeah.
Like, this is a completely different time we're living in, and everything.
Yep.
And you have to be grateful for those like opportunities. Like you've done so much in your career, yet this has probably been one of the more impactful parts because there's so much happening to other people, and you just have to be so fortunate to be in the circumstances that you are in, to be able to film this film, to be in this show. Like I feel like gratitude plays a big part in your life, and I can kind of feel that from you already. So how do you feel like? Do you wake up every day just grateful, or like how do you go about your day like feeling wise?
I mean, this last year, I'll be real with you, there's a lot of like ups and downs. It was a tough year, and I had a lot of stuff happening on the
Yeah.
personal side, and just a lot going on. So, just with the last couple months, I had a little bit of time off from the show, and my main focus has really just been getting right mentally again, taking the time to do the things that I need to do to be, centered, whether it's eating a certain way, getting back in the gym, training consistently, taking 15, 20 minutes every morning to kind of stretch and meditate, just taking control of the day rather than the day kind of throwing me around, right? Like, and that's again a mental discipline and something that I had kind of let slip away from me because my mind was so preoccupied with all this other shit going on this last
Yeah.
year. But
I
no,
feel you.
to answer your question, man, like, do I wake up grateful every day? No, not at all. I don't know if anybody does. Maybe like the Dalai Lama, but that's because he's dedicated his life to getting there. But it's like a constant, it's being aware of things and not looking at what you're experiencing, emotionally with a critical eye. Like there's things that come up and I'm able to deal with and recognize those feelings, and if necessary, find out, well, what's the root of this?
Right.
But it's like, it's not always just set in stone and pretty. And I think that's the misconception that people have.
Oh no, never.
People think that, like,
It's up and
whether it's
down.
actors or celebrities, they have this perception that, oh yeah, they probably, if when they think about gratefulness, like, oh yeah, they wake up happy as hell every day. It's not like that. Like,
No, it's very far from it.
Well, no, I wouldn't even say it's like being happy all the time. Being grateful is more so like just being appreciative of what you do have, because you're not always gonna be happy. There's ups and downs. It's like anything. That's reality itself. But it's always good to just open your heart up and be like, wow, I have this in front of me. I have that in front of me. Like I have so much going for me.
For sure.
Like I feel like that's very important to implement, because you're just vibing at a higher rate at that point, and you just attract more into your life too.
Yeah, I agree. I think everything in your life kind of stems from where you are right here, right? I'm a firm believer in that. So I think like the mental discipline and the mental fortitude is very important, and I say that above everything else. Everything else comes secondary, right? Like even me moving my arm right now.
That's where meditation
I think it's me
comes
moving
into.
my arm first, but what's really happening is like this is sending like this comes before everything. So it's
all about your mindset.
happy, positive, grateful. I mean, these are things that I strive to be all the time, but I have to check myself constantly, being able to appreciate the moment that I have and what it is that I'm doing, and just the opportunity. And that's what I think, this last season, why it was so special. It reminded me of that, because you really start to appreciate things when you don't have them or you can't do them willingly.
Yeah, it's so true.
You know what I'm saying?
You're missing it.
Yeah.
You're missing it.
And for
You
me,
feel like you're missing out.
and for me, this like the acting thing is just much bigger, like I fell in love with telling stories and like connecting with people that way. So like the art form and the practice of it has always been the thing that I've been after. It was never recognition or popularity or in today's time, like followers. Like I never wanted any of that, right? If anything, it's become something that I've had to learn to adapt with, but it was never my priority. In fact, like I don't really like attention all that much. Like I kind of just enjoy staying low key.
Which is kind of ironic. People would find that ironic,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm grateful. Speaking of gratefulness, I'm grateful we got to have you on this podcast, man. Like you're down to earth.
This is really awesome.
Man, listen, it's like you guys, again, you can kind of take it anywhere you want to take it. So I'm just happy to be a part of it, because I know
And you're a huge part of it.
Yeah, but
as
listen,
you know.
like I know the two like-minded individuals, you know, like I'm the guest, you guys are the host, but this is your
Mhm.
thing, and I know who you guys are and your personality and
Mhm.
what you've kind of already achieved so far. So I'm excited to
Right.
see how far you can take this.
Right. Yeah. No. I appreciate you again.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
excited, man.
Yeah.
Just gotta keep striving every day, right?
That's
That's
right,
all.
man.
Yep.
It's all it's about.
That's right. Awesome.
All
So
right, yo.
again, I'm your co-host, the founder and CEO, Eli Zide, and you guys can find Cody anywhere. Just Cody Christian, that's his full name.
Yeah,
Anywhere on
you could
social
just
media,
kind of
give him a follow everywhere you can. And yeah, watch All American, watch Notorious Nick. Anything you can do to support and really show gratefulness.
I appreciate that.
And
Yeah.
my main host, Chris, you can send.
Yep. And that's a wrap. Thanks for joining us.